Hello everybody, Happy New Year, buon anno, and welcome to the latest edition of La Fidanzata D'Italia Podcast. I'm your host Vince here. Lots of stuff has happened so far. It's the January transfer window, it's opened up, and there's lots of rumors and lots of drama, specifically around Juventus. So the first rumor on the January transfer window is a big one, and that's Alvaro Morata's supposed alleged move to the Camp Nou, to Barcelona. And this comes to a surprise for many people, including myself. One, because I just don't understand how Barcelona can have the available funds to pull off such a move, especially after the signing of Ferran Torres in January. They went from potentially being bankrupt, losing Messi and all that, and all of a sudden they're able to acquire all these players. I mean, they signed Ferran Torres and they still haven't even been able to register them because apparently they can't move on any players. So how they're allowed to do this is just beyond me. But move away from Barcelona and let's talk about why Morata would actually want this move to go through, because there was reports that he actually agreed to this move, and it was all pretty much down to Juventus as to whether or not this was going to happen or not, if they were going to give the go-ahead. And I mean, while I love Morata, and while Morata has come out and essentially said how he loves life in Turin and how he loves playing for Juventus, but the fact of the matter is he doesn't have a permanent home. He doesn't have a permanent contract, and it raises a level of concern for a player, and I'd have to agree with him, and I have some sort of sympathy for him in that aspect. But he's always on the move. He's always on a loan deal, and and could be because of his inconsistent performances and whatnot, but on his day, Morata, I think, is one of the best strikers around. So, but yeah, I think he would want this move to go through just because Barcelona was offering him a permanent 18-month contract. And right now, if you know or if you don't know, he's on a loan deal, 2-year loan deal with an obligation or an option to buy for Juventus rather at the end of this current season. So in the past, Juve had to pay a small fee for each year's of each year for Morata on loan to Atletico Madrid, and now this is the final year of that loan agreement. And in the summer, Juve have the option to either take up the buy option for 35 million euros, or they can decline and say, we don't want you anymore. We don't think you're good enough. We don't think we need to spend the 35 million on you when we have other strikers that we can get for similar price range for a striker that's going to be 29 years old in the summertime. But or they could potentially maybe negotiate with Atletico Madrid and get a lower deal. I mean, who knows? I mean, there's so much that we don't know that goes into all these contracts and that they don't come out and say in the media. So anything can happen. But that's why Morata would want to move, because he does want to feel a sense of security. And he has said that before in the past while he was on loan at Juve. And they ask him about his future and what the future holds, and whether he thinks about if Juve is going to take up the option to buy him or whatnot. And I feel for him in the sense that he says it's not up to him, and while he loves it here, he just feels insecure and wants a place to stay and call home, really, because his future's always up in the air. So I do feel for the player, especially for Morata, given how much I like him. But hopefully he performs well for the second half of the season, and Juve maybe can take up the option to buy him, or they can negotiate with Atletico Madrid for a lower fee. I mean, only time will tell what lies in store for Alvaro Morata this season. In order for Morata to complete this January move to Barcelona, Juve would have to secure the services of another attacker, and they reportedly are currently trying to secure Mauro Icardi on a loan deal to the end of the season, so that Morata can go. But Allegri came out and he has said, and when the media asked him about it, Allegri put his foot down right away and said, no, Morata's staying. I had a meeting with him, the board, and I, we sat down with him, and, I told him straight out, you're not leaving. You're staying here. And that's it, period. And Allegri likes Morata. I mean, he always have. He's worked with him in the past when he had a loan deal a few years back at Juve before he moved on to Chelsea and Atletico. But But yeah, so I mean, I don't think it's going to happen. Allegri is pretty sure that he's going to keep the current squad that he has, and there's not going to be many changes or many acquisitions, if at all any, this January. So Morata might have to just focus on impressing Juve enough so he can try to secure a spot at the end of the season. And while we're on the topic of, Barcelona and them trying to acquire Morata from Juventus on this loan deal, there's also reports that, now Matthijs de Ligt has come out and said that he's ready for a new challenge, or Mino Raiola, his agent, has come out and said he's ready for a new challenge. And, Barcelona, it has come out and emerged as like a potential candidate to secure his signature in the summer. At first they were saying this January, but then in the summer. And again, Allegri squashed these claims and said, yeah, he's ready for a new challenge. He needs to score. That's his new challenge. So I thought that was answered pretty well by the Mister. And I think that Juve need to do whatever they can to keep Matthijs de Ligt at the club. I mean, I think he's done really well since his move here from Ajax. He's clearly one of our best defenders, if not the best center back that we have, given Bonucci and Chiellini's aging problems and their injury problems. I mean, he's our most reliable center back that we have at the moment. So holding on to him will be vital. And I think they need to focus on making Matthijs the leader of this team going forward, because Dybala is certainly coming towards the pinnacle of his career. I mean, he's 27, I believe, and he's coming close to the end of his time. I don't know if Juve is going to renew his contract or not. I mean, there's been this ongoing contract negotiation between Dybala and Juventus since the beginning of the season. And Dybala asking for a certain number, Juve not willing to meet that number. And I feel for both parties. I mean, for Juve, I totally agree, and I understand why they don't want to meet Dybala's demands and offer him the 2 million or 3 million more per year that he's asking, or the reports are saying that he's asking for. And on Dybala's side, I certainly understand why he's asking for that increase in salary, given the ability that he has to turn a match upside down and just take control over a match like at the flick of a finger. So I mean, he is that type of player. But I mean, only time will tell whether or not Juve Dybala can come to an agreement. So yeah, I mean, in terms of January transfer moves, I don't think anything's going to happen, like I said earlier. And as I said, like, Allegri believes nothing's going to happen. So Juve have their sights set on one transfer in particular. They've been really, really interested in Vlahovic from Fiorentina, the 21-year-old striker. He's been a phenomenon so far at Fiorentina, and lots of large, big clubs around Europe are looking to secure his signature. I mean, Arsenal were the latest to offer Fiorentina a fee in January, but Vlahovic came out and declined that move, and so he didn't want to go to Arsenal, and he wants basically he wants a bigger club. But aside from Vlahovic and Icardi, Scamacca has emerged as another option for Juve. I mean, Scamacca's been doing really well this season. But I worry about Scamacca just because it's only the first year, and I don't know how consistent he'll be. Like, you don't know if it's going to be just one of those one-off seasons where this player's having a really good year, and then he just falls off and is not as good. Because especially for the fee that the club is asking for Scamacca, I think they want around 40 billion euros for Scamacca. So that's quite a hefty fee for someone who is only just beginning to show his worth. So, but yeah, I mean, some other targets that you've been looking at. I mean, there's obviously so many players that are going to become free agents this summer, but the big factor will be whether or not Juventus have the funds to complete any of these, because with COVID, the club has been hit so much financially, as have other clubs, but Juve just seem like they're in real major trouble, especially with these hefty wages that they have their players on, especially like one in particular, Aaron Ramsey, who hasn't played much at all this season. I think he might have featured once or twice this season, but He's clearly not in Allegri's plans. He's always getting injured. Not the player that we saw at Arsenal, not the player that we see in a Wales jersey. And, especially him coming out and blaming, the training staff and the technical staff and how they manage him at Juve. Like, I just think it's kind of ridiculous. And, he's on a pretty big wage. I think it's believed that he's around on 400,000 euros or something like that a week wage, and not many clubs want to offer or are willing to pay that type of fee, especially for a player like Aaron Ramsey, who is going in his 30s. He's in his 30s, so it's gonna be a challenge moving him. But Allegri has made it clear that he is not in the plans and he will be out this January. So we'll see. I mean, it's kind of a bold statement to say he will be out if the player doesn't agree to a move. I mean, you have to really hope the player agrees to move. I mean, because we could have another like Gareth Bale situation on our hands here that we've seen at Real Madrid, where he's perfectly content to ride out his contract and get paid and not play and just do his own thing. So, I mean, I hope that's not the case. I hope they can both come to an agreement. I mean, there were talks that Juve were talking about maybe terminating his contract, but now there are supposedly offers from the Premier League, some Premier League clubs. I think he's turned down a move to one club already in the Premier League, and Newcastle have also made a bid for him, but apparently that got turned down as well. So we'll see. He wants a more ambitious club than something like that. But given Newcastle's resurgence and in finance is not, because they're not doing so well on the table, but given the financial increase that they've had, you could see him moving to Newcastle just because they can afford to pay a similar wage or a wage that hefty. But again, only time will tell. I really think he is like key. They really need to focus on, if they do anything at all, this needs to be the major focus, trying to get Aaron Ramsey out of Juventus and off the books this January. I mean, that's the biggest thing I feel, because then you have room to negotiate with other people, other players who haven't signed a new contract, who are going to become free agents, like Paul Pogba, like Antonio Rudiger, so we'll see. And then in the summertime, you can look to revamp other positions and things of that nature. So moving away from transfer news and everything, we'll get right into Juve's matches and their poor position in the Serie A table and how they need a complete turnaround. I mean, we saw their first game back in the new year against Napoli, and then a draw, and wasn't a favorable result for Juventus, and not what they were hoping for, especially to kick off the new year, especially trying to cement their place in the top 4 position. So definitely concerning. It was concerning, especially where they played. I didn't feel that they played particularly well. They had their chances, but again, it's been so difficult and to watch them in the attacking third, and I can only imagine how the players feel. I mean, they're struggling for goals, one of the lowest scoring teams in the Serie A this season, which is unlike them. It's unlike a top teams, especially. So, but we did see Federico Chiesa, his first game back after a long absence against Napoli. He was on the score sheet to level it up for Juve, and that was basically all they did all match. And and then they played a few short days later against Roma yesterday on Sunday, and that was, what a dramatic match, what a game. It was a thriller, honestly, and a fantastic match to watch, especially from a neutral standpoint. But I was a bit nervous going into this match, just because 2 big games back to back, and then the way the performance against Napoli and how they're struggling in front of goal. I just didn't know if they were going to be able to turn it on and get a result here, especially if Roma could, because we know Roma could put in goals, so it just depends, and Juve can't. So if Roma did put in a number of goals, would Juve be able to respond and score goals to combat that? So that was the big question. And my, did they respond? And the game ended 4-3 in favor of Juventus, and it was a little bit worrying for Juve when they went down 3-1 right after the half. It was 1-1 going into the halftime. We saw a goal from Dybala and Abraham in the first half, an exquisite goal from Paulo Dybala, and again, even more reason in favor of him as to why he should get that contract increase, salary increase for his contract. But anyway, yeah, he had leveled the game right in the 18th minute mark, around that, and then they went in level at the break, and then right out of halftime, I had a good feeling coming out of halftime, but then 3 minutes later, Mkhitaryan scores like a deflected goal that just goes in, and then you feel like, oh man, it's that type of game. Big deflection like that. Szczesny's just on his heels. He's like just froze. And then shortly after, a few minutes later, Pellegrini scores a free kick and it's 3-1 Roma. And then you feel there's no way back after this, especially given how poor Juve came out at the break. So, and again, as I stated earlier, I re-emphasize that they've had such a struggle in front of goal. But my goodness, Landucci who filled in for Allegri this game because Allegri was suspended in the game against Napoli because apparently for something he said to the officials. It's not clear yet to us, but he had to sit this match in the stands. So his assistant Landucci was on the sideline, and my word, did he get his substitutions right. He brought on Artur and Morata, and my goodness, did they make a difference, especially Morata. Morata, when he came in from Moise Kean, he was a difference maker. Locatelli scored in the 70th minute, and that was all in part due to Morata's movement, Morata's involvement. And I think that was Morata's cross. And it was a brilliant play on the right-hand side from Morata, and which is a rare position that he usually takes up because he's usually on the left-hand side. He drifts out wide to the left-hand side. So seeing him on the right-hand side and taking on Ibanez was pretty great, and he was able to do it quite well and put in a delicious ball in for Locatelli, and Locatelli was wide open, free header, got us back into the game at 3-2, and then you feel, okay, game on now, let's see if they can put another one in. And 2 minutes later, Kulusevski scored, and again, off of a chance that Morata had pretty much created. It was, granted, the cross came in from, I believe it was Cuadrado, and Morata had a chance to chest it down, and he went to volley, and it got blocked, but it fell right to Kulusevski, and he was able to tap it in, or to hit it in, and we were at 3-3, and right then you feel, wow, what drama, and you feel like the game was totally shifted in momentum, and it's like, wow, Juve to score 3 goals in a match. I haven't seen this in quite a while, and they looked so impressive going forward. Either they looked so impressive or Roma just completely collapsed. And while I want to give credit to Juventus for looking so impressive going forward and getting back into the match, and they showed such great character, I also do feel that Roma was just in shock. They were in complete shock. And then 5 minutes later, De Sciglio had a moment of magic. He just took the ball down, chest control, and then just volleyed a beautiful finish, a beautiful strike into the lower left-hand corner, and then Juve's ahead. And from there on, you felt that this game was done. You felt, because if you saw the players, especially Cristante, you saw images of Cristante just biting at his jersey, that Roma jersey. It was, if you were a Juve fan, it was like a beautiful sight to see, like just the frustration of the other team, because that's the Juve you want to see, the Juve that frustrates these teams, especially big teams like that, and just have that DNA to come back and just dominate a match and just shut out the other team and don't give them a way back. So that was brilliant to see. But then, in typical fashion, they just 11 men behind the ball, and they're defending. And then in the 81st minute, Tammy Abraham gets a chance. He strikes it. De Ligt, it was unlucky for De Ligt. He went in to block it, and had his elbow up, and the ball strikes his elbow. So they went to VAR, and the referee deemed that it was a penalty, and then he gave De Ligt a second yellow card, and he was sent off. And at that moment, I honestly felt, wow, this is it. They're gonna draw the game, and then they're gonna get momentum back, and now Juve's gonna lose, and that's it. But my word, Szczesny, what a save for that penalty to deny Pellegrini and keep Juventus in the match. And Szczesny said afterwards that he really got lucky because he was like off balance, and the way Pellegrini hit it went right at him, and he was able to save it. But my gosh, after that save, it was just I could not wait for the final whistle. It was it was just insane. But it wasn't like the typical 10-man Juventus that you usually see, or you've seen this season, even the full squad of Juventus where they had a lead and they just sat back and they were defending. I mean, this Juve team, even with 10 men against the 11, there were opportunities for Juve to counter and attack and pretty much score a fifth goal. But I mean, they didn't sit back, which I was quite pleased to see, because had they sat back, I feel like Roma could have gotten back into the game and maybe tied the game. But it was overall, like I said, it was a great match to watch, and definitely a great match for Alvaro Morata, given all of the criticism that he's got this season. Him, Dybala, and Moise Kean, and all the other strikers for not putting in the attacking players for not putting in the goals this season. I mean, what an answer to his critics from Morata, especially given the transfer gossip and rumors that we talked about earlier about Barcelona maybe wanting him and Juve not taking up his option because of the poor performances, or him not performing up to par or the standards that they wanted. But my gosh, today, if he goes on the way he played today, I feel you are pretty much making a case for Juve to sign you at the end of the season, for any club to really pay that 35 million euro or whatever I thought they go ask around that fee for him if he continues to play like that. I mean, a complete difference maker today when he came on the pitch. And to shift away from Morata, I want to talk about another player who has been heavily criticized, and that's Artur. And I've stated this in the past, and when Artur first came to Juventus, and even last year under Pirlo, I truly like Artur, and I believe he's one of our best midfielders, if not the best midfielder. And today, I mean, he came on for the last 20, 25 minutes, whatever it was, and he made a difference. And whether or not people like Artur, or whether or not people say he's not as physical and whatever, the fact of the matter is, he came in, Locatelli was able to push up the field a little bit, because when you saw Locatelli and Bentancur on the field together, they're similar players in the sense that they occupy similar positions. And Juve's midfield was getting dominated, and I think it was in particular because of that reason, until Landucci made that change and brought on Artur, because like I said, Artur coming on, Artur was able to occupy that deeper role, and they pushed Locatelli up, which I don't understand why they wouldn't do that before when Bentancur was on, why they didn't try that. But anyway, they tried it with Artur, and my goodness. And I think it's because the type of player Artur is, he's always demanding the ball. He's always checking in the defenders and checking to receive the ball. And, I really like that if you watch him off the ball and he's making, he's checking to the ball to receive the ball, and they don't play him the ball, or if somebody doesn't try to play him, even if he's like somewhat marked, or if he has a player maybe a few steps behind him, he always wants the ball. And if you don't play him that ball, you can see the frustration that he gets. And, I like that, and I particularly think that he should get the ball, and that's the role that he could play and he could continue to play in. And I think Allegri should deploy him in that role, just because when he's on the ball, he barely loses the ball. I mean, he's so technical on the ball. I mean, probably one of the most technical players Juve has. I mean, if not the most technical, aside from Paulo Dybala, because when you watch him and there's players going in for a tackle on him or putting pressure on him, he just doesn't lose the ball. I mean, the way he's able to turn and everything, he rarely loses the ball, and I love that about him. And I think that's such a rare quality and such a great trait to have, especially in the middle of the park. And now if he can combine that with some playmaking ability, then I mean, he'll be such a big help and big boost to this Juventus midfield that has been lacking in terms of playmaking and in terms of dominance so far for the past few seasons, to be honest. So I really was pleased by Artur, and I there was rumors about him and his agent before the January transfer window that he wasn't happy. The agent wasn't happy with the amount of playing time that Artur was getting, and a player like him should not be getting treated the way he has been at Juventus in terms of not playing matches or not playing as many minutes as he should be. And I completely agree, like I said, because as I said, he's probably, I think, one of our best midfielders, if not the best midfielder of the pack. So, but Allegri did deploy him for a full match right before the transfer window opened, and then So I do think that giving him a start and giving him a match, I do think that kind of gave him, some hope that he can kind of rekindle his career at Juventus and kind of get back into that starting 11 and, cement his place as a starting midfielder and stay at Juventus, because he's only 24 years old. And holding on to a player like that, especially for the fee that he came, a player valued at around 75 million euros, something like that. To offload him in such a short amount of time would be a real shame. And obviously they wouldn't acquire that type of transfer sum for somebody who hasn't been performing great as of late. So I definitely hope that Allegri keeps playing him. I definitely hope he can keep playing some great football and get in and establish himself into the starting 11 for Mr. Allegri going forward, because I think he will be a vital and key part in our quest to finish top 4 this season. And especially with the Serie A table being so competitive, this year in terms of who's going to qualify for the Champions League thus far. It's really tight at the top. There's still, while Inter look dominant at the moment, there's still plenty of games to be played, and there's still so much that can happen. While you don't expect Inter to fall off and lose many games at all, really. So, it could happen. And if it does happen, it gives anybody in that top 4 a chance to really fight for the Scudetto still. So it all depends on, there's still so much, like I said, so many matches to be played. You can't rule anything out at the moment. It's not like we're in the final 6-7 match days of the season where, it's you know what to expect, you know what you're gonna get, really. But like I said, there's around 17 matches or so left to play in the league, and that's a lot. There's a lot of points to be won, a lot of points to be lost. So anything can happen, and if Juve can keep up the pace and go on a streak of winning games and not losing, just they need maximum points, you feel, from every game going forward, and then they need a little bit of luck from and help from other teams in the league to stop the clubs ahead of them. And you never know. Who knows what can happen? Definitely a top 4 finish is reachable, and I think it can happen. Pretty confident that it will happen, especially with Allegri at the helm. But who knows? I'm still optimistic at this point that something could happen. Anything could happen in terms of maybe their quest to finish in top two spot this season. and I know people may think I'm crazy. Other Juventinos may think I'm crazy for thinking that way. But it's really, with the type of players that you have that Allegri has at disposal compared to other teams, there's really no reason to think otherwise. Honestly, with the caliber players, Inter and Juventus are the strongest teams in Serie A on paper. If you think about it, player for player, against other teams, there's no other teams in the Serie A that I believe are close or as strong as their players that they have at their disposal. So definitely top 2 teams in Italy are Inter and Juventus for sure at the moment. Now, Juve are playing Inter in the Supercoppa Italiana, and it's both teams' chance at a trophy this season. It could be Juventus' first trophy for this season, and granted, while it's a Super Cup, it's still a trophy, and I say it all the time. And I a lot of people always downplay, these different types of trophies and competitions, like, the domestic cups and the Super Cup and, the Europa League as opposed to the Champions League. But, at the end of the day, these are still competitions and there's still trophies to be won. And that makes a difference, and that matters to players. At least from where I'm standing and my view on it, especially playing football since I was younger, you always want to win anything that you're playing in. So, I can only imagine what it's like for these players. Everything counts. It's a trophy to go into your cabinet at the end of the day. So yeah, this is a big deal. It's a final. It's played as a final, and and they're both teams will want to win it for sure. And I think if Juve can can win this cup, it'll definitely be a huge confidence booster, especially after yesterday's win against Roma and the way that they did it, and then the manner that they came back. It's definitely going to help them in their fight for a top 4 spot. And who knows if, depending on how the match is played, depending on how good they can play against this Inter team, and it could potentially be a deciding factor even in Inter season. I mean, I know from personal experiences, from and even seeing stuff from other past seasons and stuff like that, if Juve can put in a dominant performance and completely, dominate Inter, I mean, that could potentially, cause Inter to maybe drop a few points going forward, and it could cause them to, kind of self-destruct in a sense that, it's not something you're expecting, and then it happens, and it just takes you off path. Like I said, I've seen it time and time again. I've seen it just playing at a personal level, and then seeing it time and time again in prior seasons. So with different teams, when somebody loses or a team loses, it could just be the beginning of their downfall. So, I mean, that's what Juve can hope for. That's the optimism that I have going forward, is that they can put in a dominant performance, and we can see Inter fall off a little bit and put everybody back in the title race. But if you can tune into it, because you got the 2 best teams in Italy going up against each other right now. So it's while the league table may not state that's the 2 best teams in Italy. Like I said before, player for player wise, it's the 2 best teams in Italy going at it, and you never want to miss a game like that. So the only downside to this is that there's just been a congested fixture list for Juventus, and it's definitely not easy, especially given all this COVID, with people being out, players being out for COVID, and on top of that, you pile on the injuries. And like I said, the latest being Federico Chiesa, such an important player, and he's going to be out now with that knee injury, and he's going to have surgery in the next few days. So he might even potentially miss the World Cup qualifiers, the remaining games to qualify for the World Cup. And while I have sympathy for the players and the managers who blame the congested fixture list, I think at the same time, I mean, this is football, and a club like Juventus, I mean, this is how it goes. You have to be competing on all fronts and all competitions, and this is, unfortunately, this is what comes with that. So you need to be prepared, and you need to hopefully be fortunate enough to have all your players healthy. Well, that'll do it for the latest edition of La Fidanzata D'Italia Podcast. I want to thank you so much for listening, and until next time, fino alla fine, forza Juve.